Autoridades presentes, senhoras e senhores, bom dia. É com grande satisfação que os recebemos na Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie para o evento Segunda Consulta Internacional de Pesquisa sobre Liberdade de Religião ou Crença, 7º Simpósio Brasileiro em Direito e Religião e Consulta Internacional sobre Missão e Teologia em Contexto de Perseguição. Convidamos para compor a mesa o excelentíssimo chanceler da Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie, reverendo Dr. Davi Charles Gomes. Convidamos também o presidente da Associação Nacional de Juristas Evangélicos, professor da Universidade Federal de Sergipe e da Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie, Dr. Uziel Santana dos Santos. O presidente do Conselho Internacional da Sociedade Internacional para os Direitos Humanos, secretário-geral para Assuntos Teológicos da Aliança Evangélica Mundial e diretor do Instituto Internacional para a Liberdade Religiosa, Dr. Thomas Schirrmacher. E o professor da Escola de Teologia de Giessen, Alemanha, da Faculdade Teológica Evangélica de Leuven, Bélgica, da Universidade de Stellenbosch e vice-diretor do Instituto Internacional para a Liberdade Religiosa, Dr. Christoph Sauer. Gostaríamos de iniciar este evento com um momento de reflexão que será proferido pelo excelentíssimo chanceler, reverendo Dr. Davi Charles Gomes.
Bom dia a vocês, bom dia aos meus queridos amigos, Dr. Uziel, Dr. Thomas e Dr. Christoph. É um prazer abrir esse momento com uma breve reflexão. Eu vou fazer daqui só porque, se amarrar minhas pernas, eu não consigo falar. Fica mais fácil falar em pé, porque eu posso mover um pouco. Eu quero ler uma passagem na Bíblia e fazer uma conexão que ela é um pouco incomum, mas eu espero que ela provoque um pouco de reflexão. Brinquei com o reverendo Judásio, nosso capelão que faz a interface entre a chancelaria e a ANAJURE, dizendo que eu ia tentar dar um ataque cardíaco no Dr. Uziel, com a reflexão agora de manhã. Depois que o mundo foi destruído por um dilúvio e que Deus resolveu dar aquilo que nós chamamos hoje em dia de um restart na humanidade, algo muito interessante aconteceu. Deus fez uma aliança com Noé e a sua descendência. Qualquer aliança feita com Noé se aplica a todos os descendentes de Noé, o que significa que ela tem caráter universal. É uma legislação que não é específica para a nação de Israel, para o povo de Deus, como muitas outras leis depois, mas é uma aliança, um pacto que tem esse caráter de universalidade. O interessante é que, quando Deus fala com Noé, nós sempre lembramos do arco-íris, mas esquecemos que ele começa a falar algumas coisas sobre como vai ser a relação do homem com a natureza e do homem com o homem. E ele destaca um ponto muito interessante aqui. No versículo 5 do capítulo 9, ele diz assim: certamente requererei o vosso sangue, o sangue da vossa vida, de todo animal. O requererei, como também da mão do homem, sim, da mão do próximo de cada um, requererei a vida do homem. Se alguém derramar o sangue do homem, pelo homem se derramará o seu, porque Deus fez o homem segundo a sua imagem. E é interessante que, logo depois de fazer essa afirmativa, então Deus continua e diz: mas sede fecundos e multiplicai-vos, povoai a terra e multiplicai-vos nela. O interessante aqui, e é óbvio que em outro momento esse é o texto-chave para garantia de algumas das seguranças individuais que nós temos, mas eu creio que ele nos dá também uma dica de algo que é bem relacionado com as liberdades que nós gozamos. Algo que foi percebido pelos pais da Constituição americana, quando fazem o seu argumento para a garantia das liberdades individuais, dizendo que elas fluem de uma dotação do próprio Criador. A Constituição americana fala que existe uma crença basilar, talvez aquilo que Hayek vai chamar de demarquia, uma crença basilar de que o Criador dotou algumas liberdades específicas pelo seu ato de criação. E o interessante aqui é a conexão. É óbvio que aqui está falando de pena de morte, não dá para escapar muito. Ele está dizendo assim, a razão pela qual a vida vai ser requerida daquele que tomar em sua própria mão a função de tirar a vida de outro, nesse contexto, ele estabelece a razão, e a razão me importa mais aqui do que o ponto específico de pena de morte ou não. Porque a razão que ele afirma é porque o homem é imagem e semelhança de Deus. Ele diz, porque Deus fez o homem segundo a sua imagem. Então, o que o autor diz é que um atentado contra a vida é um atentado contra algo maior que a própria vida, que é a imagem e semelhança do próprio Criador. A ofensa é contra o Criador, contra a imagem dele que está no homem. E essa é a justificativa. Nós estamos acostumados a argumentar a favor da dignidade humana como se ela fosse um atributo que flui do próprio homem. Mas as garantias e as liberdades que nós recebemos, na verdade, fluem do Criador do homem. Aquele que, sim, tem liberdade absoluta, aquele que é fonte de toda luz e de toda graça. Dentro desse argumento, a liberdade religiosa e a luta contra a perseguição por causa da crença, a liberdade de consciência que nós gostaríamos de garantir e lutar por ela, porque cremos que ela é fundamental para todas as outras liberdades individuais e, portanto, para a estruturação da sociedade, ela também tem a mesma base argumentada aqui no capítulo 9 de Gênesis. É porque o homem foi criado à imagem e semelhança de Deus. E Deus, então, dota o homem com a capacidade de crer de acordo com sua consciência. E o fato de que alguém crê em alguma coisa não garante que essa coisa esteja certa. Mas porque é função, imagem e semelhança, o fazer aliança, o fazer pacto, o crer, o inclinar o coração, o comprometimento com o pensamento, com ideias, e especialmente aquelas que são transcendentes, as coisas transcendentes pessoais, como o próprio ser de Deus, aquelas verdades transcendentes abstratas, como o próprio conceito de verdade, como a ideia de justiça. Essas coisas precisam ser garantidas, porque elas fazem parte do construto da imagem e semelhança com a qual o Criador dotou as suas criaturas. Portanto, quando nós garantimos e lutamos por essas liberdades, como nós gostamos de dizer, e já estava lá no Estatuto da Liberdade Religiosa, na proposta que foi feita, a liberdade da crença e da não crença, nós o fazemos em respeito àquele que é o padrão e o arquétipo para todas as suas criaturas humanas. Quero convidá-los a falar com Deus e pedir a Ele que guie o processo desse tempo juntos. Deus bondoso, nós te louvamos e agradecemos porque a tua imagem é plasmada nas suas criaturas. Te agradecemos de forma especial porque a imagem de Cristo está sendo plasmada naqueles que, pela fé, recebem a tua graça maravilhosa. Mas te pedimos que, na nossa reflexão, falemos àqueles que creem e àqueles que não creem, reafirmando sempre o fulcro transcendente que justifica a nossa luta pela liberdade religiosa, nossa luta contra a opressão de crença. Abençoa este evento, os palestrantes. Dá que haja em nós aquela combinação maravilhosa de gozo e alegria naquilo que fazemos, de um senso profundo de responsabilidade e uma disposição de lutarmos juntos por Cristo Jesus. Amém.
Convidamos neste momento para realizar sua saudação o Dr. Christoph Sauer.
Buen dia, good morning. It is my privilege to also welcome you to this consultation on exploring discrimination, religious discrimination and persecution. And I would like to tell you where the conference is coming from. It was in 2013 that 30 people met in Istanbul in Turkey for the first international researchers consultation on religious freedom. And there were two participants by the name of Uziel Santana and Felipe Augusto Carvalho. Oh, okay. Okay, somebody else was with you. Anyway, and from that emerged later a partnership between the International Institute for Religious Freedom and your ANAJURE and FCL. And so we said we need another such conference. And as you can see at the top of the program, there is a combination of 3 conferences named. And that is just because our topic reaches in so many different fields, and those who are at secular universities, they could not go to a theological conference. But those of us who are Christians say, but there's so much to be said on the topic from a theological and a missiological perspective. We will just do 2 conferences, but we will eat together and have the plenary together. And you will see, actually, we invite each other to attend the specific paper sessions in the afternoon. So there you see the structure of the program. And it is my privilege to tell you who all are the collaborators, the sponsors of this consultation. On the general freedom of religion or belief side, we have MACKENZIE Presbyterian University here in São Paulo, especially the postgraduate program on religious freedom. Then we are very thankful that the International Center for Law and Religion Studies of BYU Law School in Provo, Utah, is participating, and you find the logos of all those institutions at the bottom of your program. Then the International Institute for Religious Freedom, which I represent, and Dr. Thomas Schirrmacher, and we are based in Bonn, Cape Town, Colombo, Brasilia, Brussels, Geneva, and I forgot some names, and we're continually expanding. Then ANAJURE, of course, the National Association of Christian Lawyers from Brazil is one of the sponsors. And now you get the correct name, the International Institute for Legal Studies and Research on Fundamental Civil Liberties, FCL, in Brasilia. And then on the theological side and the missiological side, you have the Graduate School of Theology here of MACKENZIE. Then you have the Andrew Jumper Graduate Center. Then you have the Evangelical Theological Faculty in Leuven, where in the Department of Religious Studies and Missiology, I hold a professorship on religious freedom and persecution, and where we have an initiative for the study of freedom of religion or belief, where postdoctoral researchers can dock on, and Leuven is very close to Brussels, so we're involved on a European level. Then the Freie Theologische Hochschule in Gießen. So I'm teaching you some German. This is simply Gießen School of Theology, and they are the first in Germany who have set up a dedicated research professorship on freedom of religion or belief and researching persecution of Christians. And it's a professorship on which I was called. And then there's the International Association for Mission Studies, and this one has a study group, and the study group is on religious freedom, persecution, and mission. And I don't have to repeat IIRF. This is the illustrious list of institutions who have backed this consultation and who will also help in disseminating the results. So even while the people who are able to be here in person and physically might be few, the results will be spread far and wide. And actually some of the presenters from India and Africa and elsewhere, they were not able to come in person, but they will be linked via video conference, or we will have a pre-recorded message and they might connect in via Skype for the discussion. So thank you very much for coming, and now I pass on to the next speaker.
Convidamos agora para realizar sua saudação o presidente da ANAJURE, professor Dr. Uziel Santana dos Santos.
Obrigado, bom dia a todas que fazem parte desse auditório e dessa seleta mesa, em especial aos nossos amigos professores Christoph, professor Schirrmacher, e ao chanceler desta universidade, professor Dr. Davi Charles Gomes. É uma honra para nós, da ANAJURE, realizar mais um evento, né, em cooperação com a chancelaria, desta feita, reunindo scholars importantes de um tema que nós temos trabalhado na esfera pública, que é a perseguição religiosa. Não é um tema que atrai multidões, não é um tema que, do ponto de vista acadêmico, é explorado como deveria ser explorado, inclusive no Brasil, mas que, nos últimos anos, eu diria nos últimos 10 anos, as universidades, professor Christoph, inclusive na América Latina, têm começado a estabelecer linhas de pesquisa e pós-graduação com o fito, né, com a finalidade de compreender por que nós temos hoje no mundo 65 milhões de pessoas que se deslocam em função de conflitos, e uma boa parte desses conflitos com o envolvimento do fenômeno da religião. A MACKENZIE faz parte disso. Eu tenho aqui no auditório o professor Veiga, José do Carmo Veiga, que também faz parte da ANAJURE. Ele é professor de uma disciplina que foi criada especificamente para estudar temas como esse, a disciplina Direito e Religião. E nós vemos isso, doutor Davi, como o MACKENZIE entrando nesse circuito internacional para colaborar, né, com investigação, com pesquisa, em um tema que, para nós, e aí falo como cristão, nos é muito caro, que é a liberdade religiosa. Nós conseguimos reunir aqui, nesses 2 dias, né, importantes professores que vão tratar de temas que certamente contribuirão para aqueles que querem, né, estudar, investigar o tema da perseguição religiosa e, principalmente, buscar respostas, né, sobre esse fenômeno que acontece, infelizmente, em nível global. A ANAJURE se sente honrada em receber todos vocês e espero que nós possamos ter 2 dias de discussões profundas e que possam resultar, né, em artigos, em, quem sabe, livros. Nós vamos ter, inclusive, o lançamento desse livro aqui hoje, pelo Dr. Jonas, sobre Em Defesa da Liberdade Religiosa, de Religião ou Crença, que é fruto da primeira turma de pós-graduação em Estado Constitucional e Liberdade Religiosa, que a ANAJURE desenvolveu em cooperação com a Faculdade de Direito da Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie, né? E nós temos aqui alguns dos coautores, como a doutora Cindy Nóbrega, a doutora Edna Zilli, enfim, que escreveram papers importantes sobre essa temática. E para nós também é um motivo de grande alegria apresentar ao público essa obra como resultado das nossas investigações. E esperamos que nos próximos anos a gente continue, né, a contribuir de algum modo para que esse cenário de perseguição religiosa, seja em países em que ela acontece de modo real, como no Oriente Médio, Norte da África, na Ásia, mas também nos países como aqui na América Latina, que acontece em termos de violência simbólica, como nós vamos estudar em algum momento aqui. Então, muito obrigado a todos e que possamos desfrutar desse evento hoje e amanhã.
Agradecemos a presença das autoridades da mesa diretora e convidamos para que se acomodem na plateia, pois dentro de instantes iniciaremos a apresentação do primeiro paper. Permanece à mesa o reverendo Dr. Davi Charles Gomes, que fará a moderação dos trabalhos, e o Dr. Thomas Schirrmacher, que fará a apresentação do tema Exploring Response to Religious Discrimination and Persecution.
It is, as always, my privilege to be at Mackenzie University here and to see my old friend Davy, one of my best friends. It's a real pity that he lives in Brazil and not in Europe. It always takes so long to get to him. And actually, I'm visiting him today. I'm only for 10 hours in Brazil. This I only do for him. But as the conference happens to be on the same day, I'm privileged to speak here. Mackenzie, for me, is a good example that you do not have to choose whether you want to be a devout believer in Jesus Christ, a devout believer in what the Reformation taught us, and to be intelligent. Some people think it's either or, and I'm deeply convinced that the conversion to Jesus Christ makes you think. There's a lot of reasons by content. If you want to love your neighbor, you need to know him, and if you want to know all your neighbor, you must learn much more than you otherwise would. And I could go on. But it's very simple. The Bible teaches us that one of the reasons why we need a conversion is because the devil, all the bad things, is in our thinking. And with our conversion, we also free our thinking, and Paul says that the life of holiness, Romans 12, is to change your life by renewing your thinking every day. And so to think more is a privilege for Christians. We want to get the thinking of Jesus Christ. Paul says this again and again. And we only get this if we think. If you don't think, you never will catch the thoughts of Jesus Christ. So I'm glad that Mackenzie is a good example, not only in Brazil, but worldwide, that those things go together. And this is also the reason why something like religious freedom research is, for dedicated Christians, not something where you say, oh, why should we study and help people who oppose our views? But is something where we are worldwide leaders. And you all know that religious freedom is not about truth. We don't defend human beings and their right to believe what they want to believe because they think that all those truths are true. But because we think that the human dignity that allows you to work from what you personally think and believe is more important than to force people into whatever truths you think there is. I have singled out of many, many topics of the research of the last years, and I have 3 lessons here, and I will see how far I get. Probably I will cut down it a little bit. and it will be very condensed, but I want to present 3 major lessons. Number 1, the situation regarding religious freedom is an indicator of the situation regarding of human rights. Often religious freedom is seen as some extra. And very often when speaking to governments at the UN, I'm just coming from Taiwan, and there's a huge discussion about the situation in China. I'm not asking for giving religious freedom an extra place, but I would be glad if it would have just the place any other human right has. If people would be as upset about violation of human rights as they are upset when people are tortured, that would greatly help. Religious freedom, but religious freedom also is an indicator, about a very simple indicator on the situation of human rights in a given country. Let me give you some very simple examples. The Third Reich, Germany. How the Jewish religious minority was dealt with was the best indicator of the situation regarding human rights in general in Germany at that time. Saudi Arabia. How Christians, Jews, Shiites, atheists are dealt with in Saudi Arabia is the best indicator of the situation regarding human rights in general in Saudi Arabia. I do not say it is more evil than other human rights violations, but it's the easiest way to see, it's the indicator to say that something is going totally wrong in the country when it comes to human dignity. Pakistan. How Christians, Jews, Shiites, Ahmadiyas, I call them the Jehovah's Witnesses of the Muslim world, are dealt with is the best indicator of the situation regarding human rights in Pakistan. Often people only know about the fate of the religious minorities, but it shows that something is going totally wrong in Pakistan. Sri Lanka. How Hindus, Christians and Muslims are dealt with is the best indicator of the situation regarding human rights in Sri Lanka, which otherwise often does not interest people. I could give the example of Iraq. I will skip it. Let's go to Europe, Greece. That Greece still has to adapt to some of the shared values within the European Union is best shown through its limited religious freedom. For the European Court for Human Rights condemns Greece on account of no other reason more frequently. They don't allow Protestant churches to be built. They don't allow mosques to be built. And for long, the European Union could have seen that there are some differences between what the Greeks think human rights are and the human rights standards of Europe. Let's look specifically at the Islamic world. I don't know whether you have the term Arabellion in Portuguese. You have it? Arabellion, that was the revolution in the Arab world, the demonstrations and so on. Okay, yeah. So I officially introduced the term into Portuguese now. Is that possible?
Yes,
we
shall consecrate it as Arabellion.
Yeah, so it's Arab and rebellion, yeah? But you know, all those demonstrations going on in Muslim countries, it has been unable to become an expression of true democracy. All those failed. Why? Because it was without a call for religious freedom. You cannot have human rights, you cannot have a democracy if you only want it for the adherents of one religion, and from the beginning, you don't accept it for others. In Libya, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, there's little hope for the return of permanent, stable, and peaceful conditions in these countries, among others, because no one has religious freedom and the protection of religious minorities on the agenda. Go to those countries and ask the religious minority. They all are very depressed because there is no future for them. And in the end, they make a major part of the population that has to build up the country. I skip down to Turkey now. For a long time, Erdogan improved many things in Turkey, such that it appeared that he had given up Islamism in his early days. He has not been able to get beyond himself to grant religious minorities religious freedom, in particular Christians. This has been the case even so the European Union, for instance, has very clearly and repeatedly remanded this of Turkey. Erdogan's actions could have taken by everyone as evidence that he remained an Islamist in his heart all the time. Because an Islamist can simply not advocate full religious freedom. Not to misunderstand me, this does not mean to dispute the fact that Erdogan's Kemalist predecessors restricted religious freedom even more radically. And that there has been progress under Erdogan and that the largest opposition party, as heir of Kemalism, is still not to be trusted in matters of religious freedom. Big problem for Christians in Turkey. It doesn't matter which government they get. They have a very evil government at the moment, but the one they could get instead would be even worse for them. This leads us to the point, if religious freedom is trampled underfoot, then everyone suffers in the end. The Third Reich, Germany, shows that initially Jews were persecuted. However, in the end, everyone was endangered. As a result, denigrating a neighbor for having contact with Jews became increasingly easy. The apostasy laws in Pakistan are a modern example of this. They were originally made for the Ahmadiyas, this Muslim sect. I just spoke at the General Assembly in Germany. It's amazing that 40,000 Muslims gathering there let a Christian speak openly about Jesus. And then the Christians. However, in the meantime, the laws mainly affect Muslims. Muslims always, even in the sense of these mistaken laws, wrongly denounce other Muslims because those laws are there. It becomes very easy. If you want the house of your neighbor, you accuse him of apostasy. Human rights are a unit and are linked to each other. There is no country in any point in history or in the present times where religious minorities have been or are oppressed and where otherwise the situation of human rights was in order. It does not exist. Religious minorities are often at the same time ethnic and social minorities, with the result that not only religious freedom is violated when they are discriminated against and oppressed. Christians and Buddhist converts among the Dalits in India are a good example for this. Think of Germany. By killing and driving out the Jews, we did not in the end touch everybody, but we lost immensely. Before this, Germany had nearly all Nobel Prize winners. After 1945, the US had most Nobel Prize winners. But actually most of them were Jews born in Germany, and we expelled them. Think of Armenians, the Armenian genocide, when Turkey killed the Armenians and sent them out. They lost about half of the national income of the country. And for decades, Turkey was a very poor country. Those surviving mainly went to Lebanon, and Lebanon, because of the Armenians, became the Switzerland of the Middle East. So if there's no other reason for you to protect religious minorities, do it very selfishly. Your country will suffer economically, academically, in a lot of areas if you drive them out. Now the last sentence down there underlined. Conclusion, trust no one that speaks about human rights but does not advocate for the religious freedom of others. Once again, trust no one that speaks about human rights but does not advocate the religious freedom of others. You cannot have human rights and cut out the human dignity in the sense that it is the inmost personality within each individual created by God that himself decides according which values he wants to live. We switch the topic to a second lesson. The percentage of the extremist wings of world religions and secular worldviews is quickly going up and down within a century. In the World War I, the large Christian nations warred against each other in the name of the Christian God. And their respective state churches demonized the enemy's population. Brazil was fine off because you were not in Europe, but you did similar stupid things in the name of Christianity. Not you did, the Christians did, you know what I mean, yeah? During the 1920s, one would not have been able to simply say that broadly speaking, Christianity was peaceful, or that it refused to force people into belief and was committed to religious freedom. The majority was not. On the contrary, fundamentalism in all denominations was gaining ground, and backhatting, scheming with alleged Christian dictators, or even the offer of open support as men of the church was common. Take Franco in Spain, that was even seen as the shield of the church. Christian-veiled colonialism did not want to let the colonies be free, and above all, the dream of a denominational Christian state, or at least harnessing the state for the spread of one's own denomination, was still very common. One could say at Christianity, at that time, the majority of Christians at that time were extremists, at least according to our definition of today. Because for them it was a given that you could spread your faith through the state. That it is good luck for people if you force them into what you believe. Now this has obviously totally changed within 100 years. Christianity has changed from one side to the other side. One can say that at the latest, at the time of the signing of the document entitled Christian Witness in a Multi-Religious World, 2011, it was 5 of the most busiest years of my life. I was involved helping to write this document with the Vatican, the World Council of Churches, and the World Evangelical Alliance. It became clear to almost all churches that the Constantine era was finally a thing of the past, and that it goes against Christian teaching and against the spirit of Jesus Christ to force other people to believe or to use the state for evangelism. At the same time, every type of mission efforts which does not respect the human rights of others is to be rejected, the document says. Northern Ireland long came across as a relic of a past, while churches and Christians finally came together and ended the religious side of the fighting. Within 100 years, Christianity became a religion that was involved in more or less every war and fight, to now be seen as the other side, and rightly so, as the most peaceful religion that is on earth. I don't say that all of us are peaceful, the most peaceful, that's a different thing. Atheism and non-religious worldviews, respectively, have in a broad sense experienced a similar delayed development. Oppressive regimes have been sought to wipe out all religions, or have used the state in order to force non-religious worldviews, have at times ruled large parts of the world. However, they have largely disappeared since the end of the Soviet Union and have yielded to a more peaceful intellectual discourse. I will comment on this in some minutes. Countries like China, Cuba, North Korea, which stem from this tradition, are still only conditionally atheists and difficult to classify. It is really more of gaining power and having control than about worldview. But don't forget, still 30, 40 years ago, for atheists, it was normal to think we are allowed to force religious people to become non-religious, or at least to educate their children without God. It was a given. It's rare to find atheists today who would think that atheism gives them the moral right to put force on people that have a religion. In contrast thereto, and most unfortunately, not because I want to speak against other religions, are happy about it, Islam and Hinduism are experiencing the opposite development. This has been recently occurring in Hinduism, as the Prime Minister ruling India presently is an adherent of Hindu fundamentalism, so-called Hindutva. Also, in one state in India, a fanatical priest became Prime Minister and openly supports people who take away the means of existence of adherents of other religions, for example, because they raise cattle, which mainly hits Muslims. The increase and geographical expansion of Islamic violence is occurring more directly before our eyes. For me, this is not a matter of disparaging Muslims or Hindus, or of making generalized statements about religions with their enormous number of varieties. After all, peaceful Muslims and Hindus are in large numbers victims of the extremist wings of their religions. Rather, we are dealing with a worldwide trend. The wings prone to violence within Christianity and non-religious worldviews are in retreat, but the wings prone to violence within Islam and Hinduism are growing and are steadily winning additional supporters, as polls show in every country of the world, whether it's Muslim countries or Western countries or wherever. Also, these four groups are the ones to which the large majority of people belong. India has only gradually appeared on the map of countries persecuting Christians and Muslims. And sad example is Indonesia, which for many years I have cited as an example of Islam and a secular democracy. Think of the Indonesian revival we had in the last century, where about 30 million Muslims became Christians, and they were not killed, and they are still there. Increasingly frequently, eruptions of local violence and large demonstrations against Christian politicians and the overall development are causes of great concern in Indonesia. The situation of Christians can only be understood with these global coordinates. Specifically due to the fact that Christians consciously refrain from violent defense of their churches, and specifically due to the fact that they promote secular democracies with religious freedom and no longer have a Christian state on their side, they all too easily become victims of religious use and states disdaining religion where they live as minorities. They become easy prey as they no longer have machine guns. And you know, most Christians in the world even do not know how to use a machine gun. They are not trained in it. It's so far away for most of them to defend a church this way, but they become easy prey by religious groups that know how to use machine guns. More than 4/5 of Christianity adherents enjoy the sunny side of religious freedom. And that is greater than the other great world religions. And this, of course, is due to a large effect that most democracies in the world have emerged in Christian minority countries. So we have assured for ourselves that we don't persecute each other. However, the last fifth of Christianity experience the dark side more strongly. That also naturally has to do with the fact that almost all Christian countries afford religious freedom. There are examples like Russia. On the other hand, there is no other large religious community which has such a high percentage of its adherents constantly subjected to harassment. This is the contradiction for Christians, that we have this incredible large part of Christianity that lives in religious freedom, and then a nearly clear-cut line, and on the other side, 1/5 of Christianity that lives under deep persecution, and where we even have millions of so-called crypto-Christians, like in Iran, where we probably have 1 or 2 million Christians in house churches, which nobody ever gets to see. I skip to 3. Lesson 3, secular and atheist worldviews and ideologies can be as discriminating as official religions. I joked when I came that I skip my topics and give an explanation whom you should vote for in the next Brazilian election. I'm refraining from it, but I will not refrain to at least give some hints. So in my last lesson, I will not mention Brazil, but he who hears shall hear. I've mentioned secular and atheist worldviews and ideologies as having extremist wings as much as world religions. So starting with Marx, Lenin, Stalin, communism has a long history of an extremist wing of thought wanting to force everybody to give up religion. When we talk about freedom of religion or belief, the official title in the United Nations, we have to see that non-religious worldviews can be as much victims of religious discrimination and persecution like religious beliefs. So in Turkey, atheists are as much or even more persecuted than Christians. As they can be as much on the side of the offenders as religious beliefs can. So the Soviet Union was not different from Saudi Arabia. Only on one side, a non-religious worldview persecuted other religions, and in Saudi Arabia, a religious worldview persecutes others on the market. For question of religious freedom, it does not matter whether one believes in one God, many gods, spirits or powers, or no God. The innermost decision of an individual is protected against violence from the outside. But that also means that any of those religions and worldviews have to be equally measured. In Saudi Arabia, there is no place for non-religious worldviews. In Cuba, there is no place for religious worldviews. Next page is missing. In both countries, there is no separation of, I say separation of church of state. In both countries, it's Islam, it's communism, so it's not the church, but you understand the term. But in Saudi Arabia, it seems to be much more obvious that state and the official religion are so much mixed, misusing each other. Yet in Cuba, it's the same system. State and state ideology are mixed, further each other, protect each other. But when the state goes against rival ideologies and religions, it somehow looks secular. Yet it is the very same misuse of power of the state against rival positions. We also find this in modern democracies. If a religion calls for certain of its values and positions to be implemented and defended by the state, and calls for action against other religions or secular worldviews, people object, rightly so, in the name of religious freedom. But if a secular worldview does the same and calls for the implementation and defense of their position by the state against rival views, this is seen as just secular or neutral. Especially in election campaigns, one can see that religious worldviews are easily identified, while secular worldviews are just seen as neutral political positions of a certain party. But to use a very simple example, to force people to go to church on Sunday is as evil as forcing them not to go to church on Sunday. The idea is the same and both are wrong. In history, to force people to go to a Catholic school was as wrong as to forbid Christian schools altogether. The one is done by very religious people, the other is done by very non-religious people. But the idea, the system is the same and both are wrong. Freedom of religion or belief presupposes that all religions and worldviews are measured by the same standards. Religious freedom is not only the complementary match to a secular democratic constitutional state, but it also is the prerequisite for religious peace, that is, for the absence of civil war or war which is religiously motivated, or worldview motivated, or is conducted against other religious and worldview communities. This is due to the fact that religious freedom does not emerge when religious communities or non-religious people give up their truth claims or come to agree to the extent that the differences almost disappear, but rather through the willingness to demonstrate religious freedom, which includes publicly displaying one's own religion peacefully and in coexistence with adherents of other religions and worldviews. I know a lot of people who think that interreligious dialogue can replace religious freedom. We talk and talk and talk, and then we find out we believe the same anyway. This is not religious freedom. Nobody can explain me how a Christian and an atheist can talk for hours and hours and weeks and years and then come to the conclusion that they more or less believe the same. Accepting each other is a political decision to discuss those questions peacefully, respecting human rights and dignity, and not by force or other means or by using the state to force each other. It has nothing to do with the question of truth. If you are for religious freedom, it does not mean that you cannot accept any truth claims. It's the other way around. And for us as Christians, the truth claim to believe in Jesus Christ includes the DNA that you only can believe in Jesus Christ if you personally, with all your heart, not being forced by others, not being cheated by others, not because you want to gain something, but because you love God, believe in Him. And because of this, we want to protect the heart of every person in this world against pressure, violence, cheating, psychological delusion, or whatever. Religious freedom is freedom of religion or belief. And Brazil is a good example that you have strange religious people on the market who want their views to be pressed on all others, but you have as many strange non-religious people who think that putting every moral order that comes from one religion out of the law, out of the society, is a good thing, and this is as much a misuse of worldview and religion as it would be if Brazil would turn back to a Catholic state where you get only half the salary if you don't visit the service on Sunday morning. Thank you very much.
Cabe-me moderar aí brevemente uma sessão aí de perguntas, respostas e diálogo. Eu vou começar com uma pergunta minha. O senhor mencionou a questão da Indonésia. Retornei recentemente de um tempo lá e tive o privilégio, ao mesmo tempo incômodo, de gastar algumas horas na cadeia com o nosso colega e irmão, que era o governador de Jacarta e o candidato que todos assumiam que seria eleito como presidente, seguindo o seu companheiro de vida política. E foi interessante, aprendi algumas coisas com ele. O apelido desse homem é, como o senhor sabe, mas para benefício dos outros, é Arroc, mas o nome dele é Bazuque. E ele disse para mim: Davi, eu mudei na cadeia, Deus me mudou na cadeia. E eu disse: como especificamente? Ele disse: antes eu era Arroc, sempre assim. Agora eu vou virar javanês, Bazuque, mas assim. A situação lá, em particular, eu creio que ilustra um grande dilema. E já que o senhor mencionou, o dilema é que, reconhecendo a necessidade de algum tipo de compromisso transcendente, eles têm por filosofia básica nacional, na política e no direito, a Pantacila, que tem 5 pontos, que garantem liberdades, mas o primeiro dos pontos é a crença no monoteísmo. E têm sido altamente criticados porque excluem aqueles que rejeitam o monoteísmo. Existe uma liberdade religiosa muito grande para qualquer religião monoteísta e não as outras. A minha pergunta é, para mim, isso ilustra a dificuldade, porque sem um compromisso com crenças transcendentes, e que, no final das contas, só o cristianismo pode oferecer, eu creio, não podemos ter democracia e, portanto, não podemos ter verdadeira liberdade religiosa. Ao mesmo tempo, esse é um compromisso que nunca pode ser imposto como filosofia nacional ou por força de lei, porque no momento em que fizermos isso, a liberdade religiosa foi para o ralo. Como é que nós podemos lutar para garantir a liberdade religiosa, que só faz sentido partindo do que, em última instância, é uma filosofia cristã de vida?
I need this, I think, yeah. Let me start backwards. Concerning the last thing, the most famous German philosopher, of course, is an atheist, Jürgen Habermas, very influential. He is in the 90s now, and sometimes people get wiser in the 90s. He has started to speak very positively about Christian values. He makes it very clear he doesn't believe in it. But he suddenly stated in public that without its Christian values, Germany will collapse because everybody will fight everybody. And so he was asked what he means by it, and he said a very important sentence, probably the best sentence of his life. A secular government, a secular democracy, lives by values it cannot create itself. This sentence is near to perfect. Yeah? The secular democracy lives by values it cannot create itself. Those values need to be there, and they more or less come out of the Christian world. Most Catholic countries are democracies today. And the Catholic Church is no democracy, as you know. So it's surely not there is the democratic church and all people think going to church, oh, that's nice, we do the same. Yet the Reformation came because they were convinced that there are Christian values that insist on the value of the vote, on the opinion of every single person. And it's interesting that in Catholic countries, often those Christian values in the end win. And it becomes a democracy. It is very difficult to implement this in a country like India. It's a Hindu country. The British left a, so to speak, Christian constitution. It never really was changed, but it included the sentence, there are no castes. And they are in India, they are stronger than ever before. Why? Because there was this nice sentence, but no value in society that would push for it. Japan got a more or less Christian constitution. Yeah? The country, I mean, they are surely not, they are better off economically than India. Yeah? But the democracy is not working. Why? Because the values, the traditional values of Japanese Shintoism do not fit those nice sentences. Yeah? This is not to blame things on others. It's the fact that you need certain values. We have spoken about the Muslim world. Yeah? You need the tolerance towards people whom you definitely think to be wrong, and you nevertheless say, we will peacefully discuss, I will evangelize you until you are dead. But only if you want to and peacefully. If you don't want to listen to me, I immediately will stop. I never will force you to listen to me. Yeah? And so this is something that is hardly discussed, human rights. Human dignity, everybody knows this is a theological term. Yeah? I sometimes say it doesn't fall from heaven, which of course is funny because it falls from heaven. Yeah? It's this term, and I deal a lot with the United Nations. It's a hot potato to mention the question, where do human rights come from? We have this International Court for Human Rights. It has It has the task to punish dictators who cannot be punished by their countries. Yeah? So that means there is some global morality that says Hitler was wrong. Even so he did not break laws, he made his own laws. He decided in the federal parliament that Jews are no human beings any longer, and then he could kill them. Yeah? So you needed the Nuremberg court, thinking there is some, but I mean, what international global moral systems are there on the market? Only two. The Christian law given by God, shortest word being the Ten Commandments, and Sharia. Yeah? So you ask this court, which of the two are you using as your standard if you judge people? No discussion. It's impossible, because officially, you know this at MACKENZIE better than I do with your School of Law. Officially, the ideology worldwide is law is the given law, is the existing, is the real law. There is no law above the laws that have been given by the parliaments. The parliament decides that's law, everything else is no law, it doesn't exist. There is nothing like a divine law or natural law or a global law, yeah?
But then you can't justify an international court.
Yeah, then there can be no, then you have to say, if the Chinese think killing people or torturing people for this, and that's the law, how can you criticize them? Yeah? And then you say, oh, there is this international law. Well, it only binds you if you have signed it. If you do not sign it, the US did not sign the International Court, so they are not under it. Yeah. So this is, but this is something where I think we need really a lot of research. Yeah. Because if you just state it very simple, it sounds like biased Christians saying we are the best, and this is utter nonsense. Yeah. Because our history proves the opposite. And I'm not talking about the history of my personal private denomination, but of Christianity. Whether we like it or not, I mentioned the First World War. Christian nations, in the name of God, the British said, you can kill Germans because they are not really human. The Germans would say the other way. That was Christianity at that time. Yeah? We know as Christians, it is one of the fundamental teaching of Christians, that between what is good, between the moral law and what we actually do, there always is a difference. This is our different view of politics. We know that the most evangelical and pious politician vote in a president of Brazil that sleeps 6 hours a day, prays 12 hours a day, and has only 6 hours to rule the country. Can you guarantee that he will not be corrupt? Why should he not be corrupt? Because he's praying so long? Yeah? Perhaps he is praying for the success of his corruption. Corruption is a part of the human being. It's God's grace if we are not corrupt, but it's a normal thing if you control billions that you misuse it. I mean, think when you are a father, this is only a small authority above some children. How easily can you misuse this power? Because you are fed up with them arguing all the time, and there is a shortcut, and you say, yeah. Okay, back to Indonesia. Indonesia, I'm finished with this. Indonesia is a very good example of what I said. Changes when it comes to those things do not go over centuries, but can come overnight. Yeah? Changes in religious constitutions. I mean, think of Brazil. How quickly did it come that it's no longer a Catholic country? Yeah? That was not a thing of 500 years. Yeah? It more or less came overnight.
Decades.
Yeah? Within the life of one person, it changed. Yeah? And so the way from North Island to the peaceful North Island of today can be a way, something of 10 years, but the other side is true too. Yeah? You can radicalize a country within 10 years from this to that. I think Pakistan in the 60s, it was a nice country. Yeah? And then in 74, they had an election campaign and used Islamism as in the election campaign. And yeah, and Indonesia is a good example. I visited Ahok when he still was the governor. But what I would like to say when it comes to Ahok, number one, why was he really put out of office? It was not for religious reasons, but because he and the Pentacle, they really were fighting corruption.
Yeah,
and
the excuse was
it was
blasphemy
excuse.
law.
Yeah,
but
yeah. In Jakarta, 30 million inhabitants, within 10 years, yeah, they cleaned corruption out. And it's now coming back high speed. The people that lost all the things used religion to get him out of office. Yeah? Yet I would say we need those Christians whose first DNA is anti-corruption.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah? If you are corrupt, it doesn't matter whether you are if you are anti-abortion, because if somebody pays you, you will install a pro-abortion judge anyway. It's only a matter of money. Yeah? And number two, the strange thing with Ahok is, whenever the Muslims do this, they win the political battle.
They win the judicial battle, but they lose the political.
Well, but
influence
especially
of the
they lose the spiritual battle.
Exactly.
I sometimes exaggerate and say 9/11 must have been invented by some very intelligent mission societies. Nothing has helped Christian mission more than this public terrorism. And that's similar in Indonesia. Yeah? They win a political battle, they win even an economic battle, yeah? But suddenly the interest in the Christian faith is back again in Indonesia, which was, I mean, you had the impression who wanted to become a Christian had become a Christian. Suddenly it's back because people fear that this might become another Iran, yeah? And they don't want this control in their personal thinking and life. Yeah? So, and his personal story even is evidence to it, yeah? That he changed to better spirituality, and when he comes out, his first interest will not be to get back into politics, but to speak about Jesus. And that's the amazing thing we see in many countries, yeah? That in Iran, even in Saudi Arabia, more they press the people, the more people become Christians, yeah? And that connects the two topics. I think that somehow people realize that only with the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ, they can get out of that this is the value the society needs. This is Jürgen Habermas. Right. There's a value the state cannot create, but it needs, otherwise everybody kills everybody.
Very good.